welcome to Frank Ranks week number 3. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of books this week, and a lot of them are pretty good. We have 11 books to talk about. Why don't we jump into it? We got DC, we got Marvel, we got Independence. Who's going to turn out on number 1? Let's find out in this week's episode. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as the occasional board game. I'm your host, Frank Zanca. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. And yeah, we're just going to jump right into number 11. So this is everything that I've read this week. Whether it was released this week or not is irrelevant. It's what I read this week. Okay? So we're going to start in. We're going out to because I got a bunch of way back machines because I went to a convention about a whole bunch of past issues. So we're going to jump into number 11 with Marvel, with the Fantastic Four, trying to complete my John Byrne run. This is number 237, and I got to say this is the only one so far of the John Byrne run that I did not like. So, you know, everybody's got to have an off day. So John Byrne starts with the Fantastic Four kind of coming out of, a battle, etc., and, they're kind of trying to take it easy. So they end up trying to foil, I think Sue and Reed even go horseback riding through Central Park. But anyway, they end up seeing a crime being made. Reed immediately jumps into action. There's some also weird stuff in here because they have to go off and do certain things. And he literally tells the cop to hold Franklin. So the cop becomes a babysitter. They go back to the Baxter building. They do all this stuff. Franklin is nowhere to be seen for the rest of the issue. So anyway, they have like an 8-foot woman who ends up being an alien, and our atmosphere makes her drunk, so she does weird stuff, and so finally, he figures that out and filters the air for her, and they are able to communicate, and she leaves ball bearings as money, so she's not really stealing, but she's using money that's irrelevant to our culture. So it was a little weird. There was a lot of holes in this one, so that's why it ends up at number 11. All right, number 10 is going to be an independent book. Let's see what it is. I read this one digitally. Anything that I have on a sticky note is one I read digitally. And that is VoidRivals number 20. And the reason this is constantly kind of falling down the list is we're on 20. We're almost on 2 years of this story. And it's a single story. So it's not like, we have a hero that's fighting another villain, whatever. It's a consistent story. So it's just feeling like it's droning on at this point. He needs to end it. I know he's trying to put like the Transformers in here, but the whole thing about all the unity and them fighting just needs to end. It just needs to end, and they just need to have an external villain. Maybe they have now the unity happens, and now they have an external threat to deal with. That's another way to make it fresh. But if this thing continues past 24, I'm done because I don't care anymore. I mean, that's like, hey, there's a mark on the floor, clean it up. And, you clean it up and you clean it up and it's just never going to come out. Then you're done. That's kind of how I feel here. It's just never going to end. And I'm not that invested in the story anymore. So in the beginning, it went very, very fast. And then it went and just stopped. So this one's about Derek and Solila. She can now fall through the floor and jump up somewhere else because uh, Zerba, whatever her name is, the other Transformer, that's kind of their god. She gives her special powers to do that. Okay, so now we're doing supernatural stuff. And she ends up going into the throne room of Derek's dad. And he's like, kill her! And she's like, whatever, and kills knocks everybody out. Derek ends up shooting her in the back, which wasn't very nice. And, he apologizes right after. Like, look, I need you guys to calm down. I need you guys to communicate. Meanwhile, we have the other guy that got cut in half. He's got his own problems. I don't care about that at all. And then we have this new special guy that is now new armored up because of the witches or whatever. Anyway, he's got 4 issues for me, and then I'm done. I don't care. All right, so jumping into number 9. We have a DC book, so we're from Marvel to Independent to now to DC. So we got an equal right now. And that's Green Lantern by my buddy Jeremy Adams. This is not a bad book, okay? Not that VoidRivals was bad either. I'm just kind of over the story. I really like, and this is completely opposite from what Wes said from Thinking Critical, I love the stuff that's with him and Carol. I think that's where this shines, as opposed to what's going on with the ship with Kyle Rayner and Superboy and I forgot Odyssey or whatever. I really don't care about that storyline. But I love when Carol and Hal are together. And they're like, oh, let's go to France or whatever, to have lunch before we go out and do whatever. And meanwhile, they get to this other place where it's like, oh, you can eat at our commissary. And she's like, okay. He's like, what happened to Paris or whatever the country was? And he's like, well, something's going on here. We need to figure it out. So let's just eat here. And he's complaining the whole time. And I like that where she's trying to be very responsible and try to figure stuff out, and he's like, I just want to play. Okay, and next, so again, all these books from this point on I all liked, so it was very hard to figure out which goes first, which I liked a little better than the last. But this was a surprise for me. So I read this digitally also. It is another independent, and it's an independent I haven't seen in a while. So this is by, I like Greg Rucka. I think he's one of the best writers out there. I don't see much by him anymore. And that's Lazarus Fallen. So Lazarus is a storyline from like 6 years ago? Something like that. It's got to be at least 6 years old. And it's a story of families. So you have these very powerful families that have serfs and stuff like that, and they rule over a certain area. Right? So it's very sci-fi-ish, apocalyptic type of thing in some degree. There's no destruction of the world, but they've kind of split up the world, so I guess it's kind of apocalyptic. But each one of them has a super-powered champion, and this one's name is Forever. And then if she dies, they make clones of her. But they even have backup clones in case she dies. The other one's already ready to step up. But they're not clones. They have to grow up, right? So they're cloned as children, and they have to grow up. So they have to grow into the new one. So that's the other thing, is that they have to. So now we have a Forever clone that's younger and a Forever clone that's older, and they're not ever allowed to leave the family. And both of them now have left. So they have the families kind of tracking them down. One family has now taken over another family through assassination, I think, from the last issue, like 6 years ago. I remember this. So this is more the story of the 2 clones, like, on the run. So not that she can't take care of herself, if anybody comes up, but, it's that kind of thing. So this was always a really good series. Why it took a 6-year hiatus, I have no idea. But I don't know why they brought it back now. It's very strange, because anybody who was reading it in the past isn't, like, I saw it pop up and I'm like, what, really, that one? So I don't know how many sales he's going to have on this, because you have to read the old stuff to understand the new stuff, And if you didn't, and you probably wouldn't even recognize it, but if you just picked it up off the shelf, you wouldn't know what's going on. Very, very strange. It's not like he did like a full recap or anything like that. He just continued it. Okay. Very, very strange. Okay. Moving on to number 7. And this is more of the Wayback Machine because, again, I bought a whole bunch of these while I was at Dallas. And that is Fantastic Four number 235. I believe that's it. This is the story of Ego, which if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy number 2, you know that Ego is a living planet. So in here, Ego has now come to Earth because Earth harbored Galactus at one point during this 200 run issue and or series, and he wants kind of revenge, and he has like jets on the back of his thing, so that's how he moves around. But anyway, so he is going to destroy the Earth. You know, he's just going to blast it. So it's almost like the Death Star situation, where the Death Star, he's coming towards things. So the Fantastic Four jets out into space to stop him, and he's like, no, there's no stopping me. So they take a piece of the jet out, and they're going to walk it down into his brain and blow it up. And to kill him that way, because they can't kill him on the outside of the planet. They got to bring it to the inside. And then he lays a decoy for them, like a decoy brain, and Reed's like, no, that's not it. So as they go deeper, they can't handle it. They can't handle the fact that they can't breathe. They can't handle the pressure that's in there. So one by one, they drop off, leaving only the thing that can get down there and plant this thing. And he gets down there. What's the funny part is that it made no difference. So he gets all the way down there. It doesn't work. But it scares Ego enough that he blows the jets, right, to go faster. But he only has one because they took the power cell out of the other one. So instead of going straight, he goes in a circle and he goes towards the sun and kills himself. So Ego actually dies in this issue. Good stuff, man. That's good stuff. I did not see the end coming. I definitely did not. All right, jumping into number 6. That is Hyde Street number 7. So this, of course, is from the what's the other universe there, from Image, Ghost Machine, and this is the story of Pranky and Mr. X-Ray and all that stuff. They're like in limbo. They're taking souls of people that were bad and kind of sending them to wherever, and they have to all of them have to get 10,000 souls or they can't leave. Right? And there's also this Midnight Monster, or whatever it's called, Matinee Monster, who is an actor who was portraying a monster and actually became a real monster in this limbo. So he looks like a monster, but he still has the same brain or whatever. But anyway, Pranky don't want to leave. So he's having so much fun. He's got over 10,000 souls, but he don't want to leave. So he wants to trap the monster. But he keeps running into this guy. And he's telling the guy, look, go that way. Leave me alone. I'm busy. Because he's laying bear traps out and all this other stuff. But anyway, the guy ends up being a pedophile. And, he ends up taking... The soul ends up going anyway. But while he's trying to battle the monster. So, good issue. Good issue. The artwork is very good. And Jeff Johns does a good job writing. All right, so now we get into another Marvel book. We're kind of, swaddling back and forth. Again, all these books have been good. It was very hard for me to figure out what's better than what. Okay, so we have number 5, and that is Batman. Predator versus Spider-Man. We didn't have any Batman. Predator versus Spider-Man. So this is the continuation. This is the penultimate issue because it only has one more issue left, and it concludes. and this is the story of Spider-Man, literally, versus Predator. And there's like not one, but a whole bunch of them. And he's Mary Jane is in the sewers with rats, and one of the guys sacrifices himself. But the Predators are after one of their own. That's why they're here. One guy has gone totally rogue. They call him Skinner because he is literally skinning anything he possibly can. It doesn't matter if it's a warrior. It doesn't matter if it's got a weapon. He's just skinning whatever he can and taking skins. You know, even animals, tigers, children, whatever it is, he's just doing it. So I guess we have predator cops or whatever else that are trying to collect this guy. And in the meantime, you know, they're looking for clues, and Spider-Man's kind of standing in their way. Meanwhile, Kraven is like, this is my hunt, and he even, you know, knocks out Con Ed from repairing the blackout. He's like, no, man, this is my hunt, and we're staying dark. So overall, this is a pretty good issue. Okay, jumping into number 4. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Number 4... Absolute Wonder Woman by Kelly Thompson. I've read a lot of Kelly Thompson over the years. I read her independent book. I read her all 50 issues of Captain Marvel, and some of it was extremely painful, I gotta say. But this, I think she's really getting it. Unfortunately, she's saddled with Hayden Sherman as a writer, as an artist on this one, and boy, do I feel bad for her. If I was saddled with this guy, I'd be like, can I get somebody new? Because we got a taste of 2 issues with a different artist, and boy, what a difference that it made. You know, because just like movies, where you can have a really good script and you can have bad acting and a bad director, that's what this is by having bad. And not that he's an awful artist, just doesn't fit this. I'm sure it fits the different storylines. I heard for other Batman patterns, I heard it works really well, but not for this. It looks like amateur shit as far as I'm concerned. But we get to see, I forgot the name of the Minotaur, but Greg Rucka originally created him, where, you know, he was kind of hanging out at Diana's house and whatever else, but they talked and stuff like that. But anyway, we see him again here because Diana is told by some of her friends that there is another Amazonian, and she's never actually met one because she is, for absolute Wonder Woman, she wasn't brought up in Themyscira. She was brought up in Hell by Circe. So when she was told this, she's like, oh my God, I can go see my sister or whatever. And she goes into this maze of where she's told that she is. And she's kind of, you know, leaving marks for herself so she knows how to get back and all this other stuff. And then she runs into the Minotaur fighting these other guys. And she's trying to figure out who's the good guy and who's the bad guys. But anyway, they end up, the Minotaur being the good guy. And when she gets brought back to the person who's controlling the bad guys, it ends up being the Amazonian. So, yeah, very interesting because the Minotaur was trying to protect one of the other girls. So now we'll see what happens, but it was a good twist. I liked it. All right, jumping into number 3. Back to the Wayback Machine again with John Byrne, number 236 of the Fantastic Four. And this is a triple size issue for $1. This is 50 pages for $1. It even has a backup story by Jim Lee and then the boss there. Forgot his name. But anyway, the creators. Wow, it'll come to me. Jack Kirby. Sorry, I went blank there for a second. So it's got a backup story with Jack Kirby drawing. But anyway, so this is a very interesting story, which, you know, obviously you got to suspend a certain amount of belief, right? But it starts out with Johnny having a nightmare of himself being the Human Torch. And he's like, what the hell? And they all have like regular jobs and, you know, they're all still family. But the thing is, Ben Grimm. He's married to Alicia. Alicia can see. It's all very strange. So almost like they're in their Twilight Zone type of situation. But then they realize after a while, since they're all started having these dreams of them as the Fantastic Four, Reed finally realizes it's not a dream at all. It's actually their true memories are peeking out. And it ends up that they are, and the Toy Man is there, the puppet master is there, and they're miniaturized. So they're in this little miniature town with these little miniature robots of themselves. Well, they're clones, and so they have basically human bodies, but everybody else. But now that why can't they do that with to cure him? Why don't they make a clone of the Thing, right? But their real bodies are outside this little town, kind of in suspended animation, and we find out that Doom is really behind it all, and the Puppet Master has joined with him. So, why didn't he kill the Fantastic Four? Don't know. So let's say he can't kill Mr. Fantastic and the Thing because their bodies, he can't just stab them, right, or shoot them. But the other two can be shot and killed. And at very least, you could have chopped their arms and legs off, and they just be whatever if you wanted to just have them in that thing forever, because he was toying with them the whole time. But so there is that. Why did he leave them? It's kind of like the old Batman 60 show where, okay, you captured them, but why didn't you just kill them? So you got this disbelief there. But the end of it is very interesting too, because he gets trapped there. So, because Doom is inheriting one of the robot bodies there. And after he backstabs the Puppet Master, the Puppet Master then traps him there. So he and the Puppet Master are both trapped in this miniature world, and Doom is in some kind of suspended animation at the time. So he's literally like, all of his armor is, stiff. It's very interesting. And there's the repercussions of that, because they actually, in the next issue, they bring him back and they just stick him in a drawer. It's pretty funny. Okay, so number 2. This is, again, the John Byrne run, Fantastic Four, number 255. Okay, so at this point, we have an analysis. Annihilus is in one of these as well, which I didn't realize this, but Annihilus, I think it's this one. Annihilus actually pulls his helmet off, and it's an actual humanoid creature. I didn't realize that the Thing was I always thought he was just a metal creature, but he's not. He's got something underneath. But anyway, he captured Alicia and Franklin, and he's got them hanging upside down. He's going to kill them, as far as I know. But meanwhile, these guys are trapped. The Fantastic Four is trapped, and Reed has no mind. So there's this bug creature that needs psionic abilities to power his ship to get home. And Reed's mind was the most powerful one he's ever seen, and it was enough to get the engines going. But also, Reed's mind was strong enough to take control of the ship. So Reed is piloting the ship. The bug guy is forced to get into one of the shuttles, escape pod shuttles, and he says, "No, don't use it. You haven't used them in years. They're not safe." And the thing blows up. So the poor little bug guy died anyway. But either way, now Reed has no mind. They kind of rigged it so that he can control his body, but his mind is still in the ship. But he's basically, just controlling his body. His mind is not in his own body. And that's where it kind of ends right now. But this is like the Annihilus stuff comes out after this, and I'm going to probably read that tonight. I'm really looking forward to that one. I like Annihilus as a character, as a villain. All right, and then the last one, number 11, DC pops it out at the end with Superman by Joshua Williamson. And then I have too much here. It doesn't even fit. There we go. Okay, Superman number 27, I believe. Yes. So this is the end. Thank God for Joshua Williamson. Knows how to close up a damn story. Unlike Kirkman with Void Rivals. Unlike Philip Kennedy Johnson with Batman and Robin. At least this guy knows, okay, we need to move on to something else. Great. So this is the wrap up of the Supercorps stuff. Lois has no powers anymore, which I have a huge question on that, and nobody really can answer that. So Lois only became Superwoman because of the absolute power stupid thing that was the event where everybody lost their powers from these Amazo robots, which made no sense. And then after that all ended, they all kind of swapped powers because everything just didn't fit right. So she ended up with Zod's powers. So Zod has no powers. We actually saw a panel in one of the previous issues of Zod coming to Earth, but never heard about it again. But now she has no powers. Does that mean Zod got his powers back? We don't know. Or if they just gone completely, which means Zod is powerless. But I was kind of hoping that we would see a battle where he would force his powers back. But so I'm very confused about that, and I'm kind of disappointed unless we see this, unless it's coming up, where she gets her powers back just as time as Zod comes back. And maybe that's why she lost it, because Zod was in proximity. I don't know. But I guess we'll find out. But he actually takes the sign of the Supercorps thing and beats Graff and Farm with it, who are villains that are in this robotic thing, showing, kind of signaling the end of Supercorps. Mercy has now taken over LexCorp. Lex asked her to come with him. I don't know. He went to some kind of frozen wasteland. I don't know where the hell he is. But that's all we see of him right now. And, of course, we get Superman and Lois flying. She says, I do miss this a little bit, but, it wasn't really for me. And we see her also in the beginning trying to edit when she is like the worst speller ever. And then we saw Jimmy come in with his burnt hands and stuff like that. And Silver Banshee still holding a grudge against Superwoman, who caused the whole thing. So overall, a really good little ending to everything. And now let's see what happens from this point on. All right. And that's it. And also remember, too, that I am on Amazon. So if you'd like to read anything that I have written, just go to Amazon.com and type your name into it. You can see my 4-novel series, Destiny Aurora. And it's also on Audible if you'd like to hear like multiple voices, because I do have a male and female voice in there. It's lots of fun. It's also a graphic novel, and it's also on Kindle, along with my fantasy novel, Tales of Ravenor, The Iron Witch. It's a lot of this dragon flying and a whole bunch of other stuff in there. If you like that kind of stuff, you'll love that. And my new comic, Fairy Tales of Terror. We have now surpassed 300 followers on the Kickstarter, because it isn't launched yet, but you can follow it, so it'll notify you about when we launch, so you can take advantage of the early bird specials. And it is a Cinderella who's a psychopath and kills people. They're all in New York City, so it's her, and Captain Hook, who I gave a really massive hook to, so you can slice people through the head. And then I gave him like a little fire fairy. And then Neverland's Tiger Lily has come out, and she's tracking them to try to stop them. And a little bookstore owner is kind of caught in the middle. It's going to be lots of fun. Definitely check that out. You can go to the QR code over here or the link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I greatly appreciate it. I will see you guys next week for another ranking, and have an awesome week. All right.